Hi everyone, this is Trish Kendall, your host for the Choose and Become interview series. Today I am with my new friend and new associate, David Allen, the CEO of NBS Fitness. We started talking before I hit record. David just got back from Africa, and there's some story there that we'll jump right back into. For those of you that are new to the community, we'll take a step back before we take a step forward. I made 5 critical choices on my journey from the pit of despair to the peak of success, enduring success. And David and I have a very similar philosophy as it relates to enduring success. So when we met a couple of months ago in a Choose and Become inspirational leadership workshop that I was doing, he and I locked eyes and we were like, oh, we're thinking the same thing. And so for this podcast, I like to take these 5 choices and bring different voices and perspectives and stories and experiences of people who I admire, like David. So we'll have a guided discussion. David's going to tell us a little bit about himself and these 5 choices in his life as I guide us through. And thanks for being along this journey. So David, just start out by telling my community a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the podcast, Trish. So I grew up a very active youth. I played all the sports, but I was incredibly skinny. I was always kind of a beanpole. I grew taller way before I grew wider. And I started exercising, working out in 7th grade. And that really kind of changed the trajectory of my life. I feel like a lot of the lessons that I have been learned through the pursuit of physical fitness and physical discomfort and growth in that area. And that has been kind of a centerpiece of my life since I hit puberty. I went to school at Delta State, played football there. And at the time, I was studying exercise science. I knew that was the field I wanted to be in. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But lo and behold, several years later, I actually opened up my first gym. And so I was 25. I make the joke that I was
young.
Yeah, I was young, dumb, and broke. So it was a perfect time to open a business. So I've had NBS Fitness for 15 years. We have 2 locations, and I actually have a 3rd gym called the Ninja Gym. So it's, if you've ever seen American Ninja Warrior, that's exactly what it is. That's primarily for youth, though the youth of all ages, but we do birthday parties, camps, open play, classes, events, all that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of a quick story of maybe a little bit of my passion combined with my profession.
Yeah. And then tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So I'm married. My wife's a veterinarian. We have been married 10 years. We had our 10-year anniversary last year. It tells you a little bit about who we are. For our anniversary, we went and did a 4-day hike through the Grand Canyon.
Oh, you guys are so awesome.
And this year,
so active.
Very much. This year, we both turned 40, and we're going to climb Mount Rainier in Washington.
Oh, yeah. Well, I spent so much of my childhood in Washington State. Yeah. Yes, it's so beautiful. Okay, we'll have to learn more about that. And you're a dad.
Yep, I'm a dad. I have 3 kids. I have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, 2 older boys, and a little girl. They're stacked up. They're all within 3 years of each other. So we had 3 kids in less than 3 years.
Yeah. So you and your wife need to get away and go hiking and do something other than be parents to these little itty bitty ones.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that is great perspective to jump in here. We all have our own definition of success. I was so pulled into the conversation with you after this workshop when we met, because the way that you articulated your perspective of enduring success. So just share with my community, what does creating enduring success mean to you? And give me a little bit of your perspective on it.
Yeah. So, I thought a lot about this and kind of the angle I wanted to take. And ultimately, the answer I came up with was enduring success for me over my life is living a life of high vitality. And what high vitality means is it's a high degree of energy and excitement in each of the different areas of health. So those are physical health, spiritual health, emotional health, mental health, social health, and sexual health. And so to me, what enduring success looks like is a high degree of energy and excitement across all those areas across my entire life.
And is that a journey in and of itself?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Get to the place where that's how you define it?
1000%. Because if you had asked 18-year-old David how he might define
or 25-year-old broke, dumb and young, whatever. Right. No, but keep going. 18-year-old David.
Yeah, if you'd ask, and I'm this will change throughout my entire life, I'm sure. But I think as I gain more life perspective, I do gain more clarity. So for sure, it's changed over my life and become more encompassing. I would say like earlier on, I was probably more singular focused in specific areas. Yeah. And I didn't have as clear a definition of what enduring success was. Yeah. I might have a clear definition of what success today or this month looks like, but not enduring success.
And I so appreciate how you put thought into that answer and the high degree of vitality. Were those 5 areas? Those were 5 areas, right? Did I count that right?
Let me make sure I got it right. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sexual, social. 6.
Do you ever consciously and deliberately calibrate where you are in each of those pillars?
Yes. So one of the things that I've realized over time is they're actually not individualized segments of health. In fact, they all connect. And when one goes up, the other goes up. And when one goes down, the others go down. And so they're not separated, but you can for sure get imbalance in one area versus the other. I would say you can't have high vitality in 5 areas and have one that's low. That's not the way that works.
That makes sense. That intuitively makes sense.
Yeah. But you can be overbalanced in one. And I've been there, and we all are. I mean, I think the best way that I've ever kind of perceived balance is like a person on a balance beam, or like, going across a great divide on a slack line. And what balance isn't this perfect non-swaying movement forward. It's this ebb and flow. And that's kind of necessary for moving forward. If you wait till you get perfectly stable to move forward, it's actually going to create instability. So what it actually is more this kind of like ebb and flow, and recognizing I'm going too far this way, so now I have to counter correct. And I'm going too far this way, now I counter correct. And if I continue to do that and moving forward through that, then eventually I'm going to get to the other side and go, okay, well, I was balanced through that period, even though never on that entire journey was I actually balanced, but I was constantly navigating it, looking for balance.
And that moves you forward. That moves us forward.
Correct.
Okay, I could explore so much with you. So I'll explore these things with you in the context of the 5 critical choices that I made. My community knows my first choice. So I'm big on making first choices, whether that's practical or profound. My first choice was picking up the phone when my sister called. So you know my story. But I've since made other first choices that were more practical in nature. What is one of your first choices that has propelled and supported your journey to enduring success?
Yeah, so I kind of broke this down to 2 first choices. The first choice I made was in 7th grade, just starting to exercise. And the way that came about was, I remember my dad had these weights, and if you're familiar with anything weights wise, he had these dumbbells that had like the cement in plastic that you slide on, and the spinning collars, And I look back, and I'm sure it's 10 pounds. I'm sure like they were red. I'm sure each red plate was 5 pounds, and he spun it on. It was like probably 12 pounds total. I remember he could do curls with them, and thinking like, wow, like that's super strong. And so along that same time, that's when I hit puberty, and I just started going up, and people constantly commented about how skinny I was, because I probably gained 6 inches in like 2 years. I didn't gain any
You're like this.
Any outward weight. I was 6 foot in 7th grade, but I was probably 120 pounds. So,
oh my God.
And so I remember like seeing my dad lift these. And then I was also in the 90s. So I remember like Sylvester Stallone and like all the action heroes always all had muscles.
Yeah.
And
Hulk
just
Hogan, like
Hulk
back
Hogan,
then,
yeah,
right?
Hulk Hogan, yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I remember kind of thinking to myself, yeah, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, and like these were like everyone in the early 90s was like big and muscular, and that was what was kind of like the definition of like what a man was supposed to look like. And I just remember seeing like this contrast of like I'm getting commented very often on how skinny I am, and I'm perceiving that this is what guys are supposed to look like. I got to do something about this. So that's when I first started training. So my
Wow.
first choice was in 7th grade. It's like, I don't want to be skinny anymore. I want to have muscles. And I remember just like multiple events across that time frame of just getting positive reinforcement. I obviously improved significantly in sports. So then I got that positive reinforcement. I remember going on a church canoeing trip. I took my shirt off. I remember some of the girls like made a comment. And that's all like
You're like,
14-year-old David needed to hear. I was like, I'm in. I'm
it's
sold.
fun.
Yeah. They're like, you're looking like muscular. You're working out, Dave? I was like, yes, I am,
As you're canoeing, right?
And so that really sent me on a trajectory for the next 15-ish years, essentially, where I found a lot of my identity in my physical performance and appearance. And that's kind of what I went all in. When I was in high school, I used to sit in math class and put a Flex magazine in my book and read that and just pray that the teacher would not call on me to answer any questions.
Wow. And because would that magazine educate you on how to work out or how to eat or what to do? So you were constantly learning.
Yeah. I was studying. I was just studying what I cared about.
Yeah, right.
And, funny enough, at my 10-year high school reunion, the yearbook in high school had written like what they thought we'd be doing in 10 years. And they pulled all those out at our 10-year reunion. And I was the only one who had the correct guess, which was owning a gym.
That's awesome. That is great.
So yeah, I mean, that just set my trajectory a lot, and it set a lot of my identity as well. And so that kind of brings me to,
Can I ask, before you go to the second choice, and this might come in later, do you think you were naturally disciplined when you were a 7th grader? Or is that something through your choice you had to become disciplined?
that's a good question. And what science would show you is that actually discipline is a skill more than it is a will. I think I developed that skill at an early age. And so I have my skill is a very sharpened skill now at 40.
Yeah.
Compared to someone who's just beginning. But science would show you that discipline is a byproduct of development more than it is just, now there's going to be some degrees to that.
Of course.
But at the time, it didn't feel like discipline. It felt like enjoyable. I wanted to eat this stuff because I knew if I ate this, and this would be the byproduct. And I knew I wanted to work out because if I did this, and this would be the byproduct. And when I got that positive reinforcement, it's like, well, I want to do more of that.
God, that is just, can you just package that up? And I know you mentor owners too. We might get into that later, but like you package that experience up and that lesson, and every single one of us can apply that in all aspects, or the 6 interconnecting pillars of our lives.
For sure.
Okay, take us to the second choice. The second first choice.
So the second first choice. So I'm married and it's time, we're trying to have kids. And the trajectory of my training had taken me down the path of powerlifting. So if you're not familiar with powerlifting, the goal of powerlifting is being as strong as you possibly can in the 3 lifts of squat, bench, and deadlift. And so one of the ways that you just can just develop that strength is by putting on weight. So I had gone up to about 285 pounds.
Will you
And
do a comparison for me right now?
I'm,
Now you just lost a lot of weight because of what happened
yeah,
in Africa, but do a comparison 285 to what you are typically.
right now I'm about 200. Normally I'd be about 210. Yeah.
So 285. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, my face was probably about 25% bigger
Okay.
than it was. I had big old red cheeks, look like a squirrel. So yeah, I was a big boy, 285 pounds. I was very strong.
Because it was powerlifting.
Powerlifting, yep.
Okay.
And part of the pursuit of in powerlifting is you take drugs, and it's not illegal in the sport, so it's not like you're like
Yeah.
cheating because it's not illegal. You can take it in the sport, but you take drugs. And like my full idea, I mean, and if you knew, I'm a very intense and driven toward a specific kind of goal person. And at the time, I was even more intense. And I was like, this is what I care about. And the only thing I care about is being as strong as possible and as big as possible and being as good as powerlifting. And I'll do whatever it takes. So that's taking drugs, that's training 3 hours, that's going to the gym when you're sick and just being like, I'm going to throw up between sets, or like, hey, I don't care if it's Christmas, I got squats today. Like that's the kind of stuff that we did. And the environment was one of the more extreme, the better. You know, it's, you get a bunch of guys together who are very high testosterone, very type A personalities, very competitive. And it's like, who's the alpha guy that can do the craziest stuff. Right. So anyways, the issue with that was I basically blown my ability to produce children at the time. And in going to the doctor, kind of finding out, I remember I went to the doctor and his response was like, you have 0 viable sperm. I was like not a lot. He was like, no, 0. I was like a little. He was like, you have none. I was like, wow, okay. But you know, we could put you on this protocol and you should be fine. So
because it just starts producing again.
Yeah.
Okay.
But essentially what that means, you got to come up with all your drugs. Well, to give you just kind of a framework of male hormones, like a healthy male, I'm not going to go with what they call the normal range, but what a healthy male is typically going to have is somewhere between 500 to 800 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone.
Okay.
I had 7,000. I came off and I had 148.
Wow.
So from 7,000 to 148. And essentially what happened was, I mean, I lost all my strength. I lost all my endurance. I lost my energy. And I was depressed. It felt like, I recall, and it takes about a month for everything I get out of your system. And I remember just waking up one day and go, oh crap, it's out. I feel it. I feel like I'm in sludge. And so that identity I had was broken. And it was a good thing. It needed to be broken. I was an unhealthy. I didn't have balance in my vitality. I was out of whack. So that being broken was actually the best thing that possibly happened to me. Because I was actually able to have children and have 3 kids. And it's one of the reasons we had 3 in 3 years is because the first year we tried for so long, and the next 2 we didn't try not to. And
yeah, you just said, let's go, let's do it. And your body had reset.
Right. Yeah.
Your body had reset and was ready to make these babies.
100%. And so the second choice was essentially, it was essentially one, accepting that I had gotten out of balance and that I needed to get back in balance, because the extreme was not okay, but this was also not okay. So I had to find, what does vitality look like? What does actual health and fitness look like, and start pursuing that. And, it was, people will tell you it was a very dramatic change in who I was as a person. And I lost a lot of friendships because it was based off of a previous identity I had, and that's not me anymore. My business changed significantly. Like, oh crap, we were actually not making healthy people. We were making strong people. We were making strong, unhealthy people. So I'm not willing to do that anymore. So
your shift with that choice to create balance shifted your business too.
It did. 100%.
And you, what's your wife's name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. And you and Jennifer, like, she was along for this whole journey. There's that whole dynamic too of the two of you going through this and you figuring out your identity. And she's been with you along the way.
And my wife is a very gracious person. And she knew what she got into when she married me. So it's like David's extreme. So like,
God,
he goes to the extreme. So you just better be prepared. So she knows that.
Yeah.
But but she's also not afraid to like tell me the truth and call me out, and then support me through that change.
And both of those first choices that you just shared obviously tied directly to your definition of enduring success, and then became the North Star or your compass all the way through. So this probably takes us to the second critical choice, which is to commit to a two-way agreement. The agreement that I committed to in the beginning was with my sister, but that really set the foundation for me of the strength of, one, creating clarity on what the commitment actually is, and then two, the strength of committing and how that can transform our actions. So what's one of the two-way agreements that you'll share with us that you've committed to?
Yeah. So,
which you've already shared, like all of these commitments that you've made with yourself, and then with your wife and with your business. I mean, there's so many. So, okay, go on.
Yeah. So when I was thinking through this, after I made the second choice, the second, or the two-way agreement, the way I perceive it is it's a agreement between God and myself that he has stated, I've created your body a certain way. Like you've been designed with a specific purpose in mind and designed in a certain way. And when you take care of your body in that way, it's going to take care of you and allow you to fulfill your purpose more fully. Like it created you in a way that you're going to have high vitality if you do the things that your body needs to have that high vitality. And so it's an agreement between myself and my creator, and myself and my body, that if I'm seeking that balance, if I get unbalanced physically and I let my spiritual health decline, I'm going to lose vitality. If all I seek is spiritual health, and I do not take care of my body and I let it decline, I'm going to lose vitality. If I do not maintain my social relationships, I'm going to lose vitality. That I've been designed in a specific way that's very clear that if I take care of it and I seek health across these areas, then I'm going to have vitality that's going to carry over to all those areas. And the way I describe it is that your body is the vehicle that your soul travels through life in. And so it is the filter through which you experience life and you impact creation. And if you don't take care of that filter, if you don't take care of that vessel, then the experience and the impact is going to be diluted. So that's the two-way agreement, is that to have high vitality and have high impact, then I need to take care of the vessel to which my soul travels.
You are inspiring.
Thank you.
You are an inspiring individual. So often I feel like I get so much more than what I give, and this is just an example of this. Like, I want to give my community your voice and your experience and your stories. And I sit here and I listen to you, and what I am getting from it is so needed right now for me.
Good.
For me.
Yeah.
And so I thank you for that. Okay, I want to ask you a granular question.
Yep.
For spiritual vitality, are there commitments that you've made on a daily basis? It doesn't even have to be daily, but consistent things that you do to make sure you're in balance spiritually?
Yes. The first one is being in God's word every single day and communicating with him every single day. So every day I read the Bible and every day I pray. Then that's also a a primary guide for our marriage and our family.
Mhm.
So that exists as an underlying tone of all of our communication within our family. And then we go to church every single week as well. And so
Yep.
we are feeding ourselves the nutrients of that, of God's word, and being in communication and connection with him on a daily basis, and being in connection with his community on a daily or weekly basis as well. And that, just like exercising every day is going to lead to more physical health,
Yeah.
doing that every day and every week is going to lead to more. And when I say this, it's also doing it with purpose.
Hmm.
Doing it with clear purpose and focus. And that's not always easy, but striving for, in the gym, you're striving for improved fitness. I would say I don't exercise, or I don't exercise. I train. And I say the difference between activity is doing things that is well within your current physical capabilities. Exercise is doing things that push your physical capabilities and causes you to adapt. And training is exercise that is planned, purposeful, and progressive. So same thing in the spiritual development. It's planned, purposeful, and progressive, because the goal is in 5 years from now, I want to be in a better spiritual place than I am today. And 5 years from now, I want to be in a better physical place I am today. So it's not just going through the motions of it. It's doing it with clear intentions and purpose behind it.
And that being planned, purposeful, and give me the third, planned, purposeful, progressive. I love that. 3 Ps. Completely aligns with everything. Your financial health, social health, spiritual health, physical health, the whole thing. And then you can just almost think about each of those elements. Now I'm not even talking to you. I'm talking to everybody that's watching us. That you can think about that in each of those elements in your life as a check, as a check-in. And, am I planning? Am I purposeful? Am I progressing? Or are these actions supporting that?
Right.
That's awesome. The third critical choice that I made on my journey was to build trust. Now, first and foremost, I had to build trust in myself. I had to start there. And then through building trust in myself, I realized that I was doing the things that actually inspired the trust of others too.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this. I'm big into do the little things great. And you've shared some little things that are big, that have a big impact. What have you done to purposely build trust and confidence in yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'd say maybe we can look to this like 2 different lenses.
Mm-hmm.
The trust that I built in myself is have you ever heard James Clear says every habit is a vote for the person that you're trying to become?
Awesome.
And so there's an idea that, like, I'm here, but this is the person I want to be. So I got to have some type of clear actions as to what would that guy do? And like I said, like that guy would open his Bible every morning, and that guy would go to the gym and exercise every single day. And that guy would choose to make healthy choices that's going to treat his body with love versus something that's just going to make him feel pleasure for the next two minutes. This guy would do these things with his kids. And every time I do that, so it's like, that's the person I want to be. And how do I put the habits in place to kind of make that happen? Every time I do that, it's a vote of confidence in that person. And I trust that I'm becoming more like that person each day because I've got the habits in place and the examples to justify, like that's who I'm becoming. But the other area is, I would say, is just recognizing that there's just no way you're going to have success on this journey doing it you're solo. There's just no way.
Right.
I'm a pretty disciplined person. I know a lot about health and fitness. Well, there's a reason, like, I work out with other people, and there's a reason that I have a plan that I didn't write,
Yeah, right.
There's a reason that, like, my financial game plans weren't things that I just thought up on myself. They were influenced and guided by other people. There's a reason I have business mentors, and I'm invested So it's more of a recognizing that like, I can't put all this on my own shoulders. I got to trust some other people to kind of mentor me along the way. Trusting their guidance and then trusting my own implementation. And if I can do that enough times, then I can look back over 5-10 years and say, well, I would definitely want to be where I am today over the last 5 to 10 years if I didn't trust those people and trust myself that I would implement what they recommended.
Yeah. And then you see the fruits, right? What is it saying? And okay, so then let's take this just for a second. You are a leadership mentor today, and I don't know if that's the right term, a mentor for Two Brains Business who helps other gym owners. And that started because you chose to trust a mentor and their process.
Yes.
And I think if I'm putting this together, that's when you made your first choice of you needed to come into balance. And that like revamped your whole business too. For
sure. It was along that same kind of journey where I said, I kind of recognize I've been running a gym for the last 6 years, but I haven't been running a business. And and I don't want to run a gym anymore. I either got to figure out how to run a business or I got to close this thing up. And I was like, I don't know how. I don't know how to run a business. I need someone who's run a business before to teach me how to do it. And Two Brain mentors people who have fitness businesses, primarily in what we call them a micro gym space, just like mine. And they teach people the best practices of owning a gym. They provide them mentorship. They provide them community. And I entered into their program and went from running a gym to running a business and running an unsuccessful gym to running a very successful gym business, and enjoyed the process so much and wanted to help other people. And so I applied and became a mentor for Two Brain. So now I do what was done for me, which is teach other gym owners, help guide them through this path that's maybe unclear to them because they haven't walked it before.
And you chose to trust your mentor and the process. Yep. And now you motivate and inspire others to trust their mentor and the process. And it does require putting trust into the person and the process because it doesn't happen overnight.
For sure. Yes. And it's hard. It's not easy things. I mean, I lost all but one employee the first year I was.
Because you did completely shift from gym to business.
Yeah. It's like, what we're doing is not working and we're going to change. And a lot of it, they all said, well, I don't want to change.
Well, and I'm totally going to come over the top on this, and you know this, but I just have to add a little bit of this for my community. I share in my signature keynote, a little bit about Gold's Gym, when I lived in Killeen, Texas, and it being the best job ever. What I don't add to it, because there's not enough time, and this is like what I'm like so inspired by you, is way back when it was a company called American Club Systems. So they were similar. They don't exist anymore, but similar to Two Brain. And I chose, just as this little person selling gym memberships at this little Gold's Gym, the owner, which would have been hired this mentor firm to come in and implement a sales process, a culture process. And the people that had been working there resisted it. But because I knew nothing, and I was like, what do you want me to do? Okay. No. And I started to see the immediate results of implementing this framework and process in the gym and in the community. And then, this firm picked me to go and do all these pre-sales. And I am telling you, it was like trusting that person. They trusted me. Then there was a process and a framework, and I followed it. And it just, so I just love the connection with that.
Yes.
And I kept it forever. Okay, so now this is going to take us to my fourth critical choice as we near our final questions. The fourth critical choice I made was to intentionally create community, friendship and community. And you've already been talking about community and the criticality of it, Vistage, Two Brain, your church community. But just let's expand a little bit more and tell me about the communities that are super important to you, and how you support that community and how community supports your journey.
For sure. I believe that as humans, we were designed to do hard physical things together. I've always enjoyed those spaces, and what I've realized is that as I get older, those physical space, those communities are not as there's not as many of the opportunities. So I then have to create those opportunities a little bit more, or go seek them out. And so as far as communities go, well, obviously there's a foundational community that exists within my gym.
Yes. Right.
It's a big old gym community, and there's just something about doing something really physically hard together afterwards that just bonds you together. And so there's a deeper bond from doing those physical challenges of doing something hard and sharing that emotional experience that comes from that physical experience with other people. And so that's one like major community for me. Two Brain also is another major community for me. And one of the reasons for that is because you're doing hard things together. And if you're a business owner, you are kind of on an island by yourself.
Yeah.
Because you can't share that with your employees. You can't share it with your customers. You usually can't share it with your spouse because they don't know. They're not a business owner.
Mhm.
And so you're like, I need an outlet somewhere here. And so whether that be Two Brain or Vistage, Two Brain is my gym specific community, and Vistage is my larger global business owner community. But both of those communities allow you the space to connect and trust, and what I was going to say is one of the foundations of building community is this vulnerability. And so that's why in the gym, and you're like, I'm sweaty and I look bad and I might have like made some really weird sounds.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you're not judging me for it, and you're giving me a high five, and you're like giving me a hug afterwards, and you're like, I can actually be myself and be a little bit vulnerable here and still be accepted in this community. Or a Two Brain and Vistage, you might be like, I'm freaking out, or you're crying, or you're sharing something that's like this major struggle, and you have people who are like, hey man, we support you, we love you, like we're here for you. And it's that vulnerability that allows you to actually build that community. So in my church, there's the vulnerability of there's a lot of sharing deep personal things that occur there, whether that be, struggles in life or marriage or relationships or your parents or your kids or whatever that, and you're sharing that and you're becoming vulnerable, and you're not trying to present yourself as this perfect person. I think that's one of the key components to actually building a community and building connection is that vulnerability. So I'll share with you an extreme example of community connection and vulnerability. So I did an event called 29029. And what this event is you find a mountain and you climb it however many times would equal Everest. So we were at Snow Basin, Utah, and we had to climb this mountain 13 times. So 13 times equals 29,029 feet, which is the height of Everest. Ended up being, I'm going to lose, I think it was 29 miles of total like horizontal distance, and 29,000 feet of vertical distance. And you have 36 hours to complete it. And the best way I can describe it is like, imagine a black diamond ski slope with just no snow on it that you're walking up for 36 hours straight. And so, you start at 6 a.m. on Friday and everyone's going and everyone's like, no, this is awesome. I'm so excited about it. And by about middle of the day, you start seeing the impact of the event on people. It's hot. I think I got about to like 90. And there's people just like passed out everywhere. If you go into the lodge, just people out.
Yeah.
And so every ascent, you're basically you're not doing this with anyone because everyone does at their own pace. But you might do an ascent with 1 or 2 people. And you get to talk to them and meet them and connect with them. And it's just so good to not be lonely on that stinking mountain. You just have someone to talk to. So, it's 6 p.m. I think I had done 6 ascents at that point, and I had 13 total. And I had done a couple of ascents with this one person, and then she had done a couple with this other person, and then this other guy who I knew beforehand had done one of the ascents with that other person. And it just so happened that we all kind of found ourselves at the starting line at 6 p.m. And we were like, y'all just want to do this one together? And we're like, yeah. And so we're going up. And maybe it actually might be 8 p.m. I think it was actually later because we had our headlamps on. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more isolating and defeating than trying to walk up a mountain with your headlamp on. Because at least in the daytime, you can see you can go, oh, well, I'll just go to that thing and then I'll be there. But at nighttime, you just exist in the 3 feet in front of you forever. It takes you 2 hours to walk up one of these things. For 2 hours, you're staring at a 3 foot by 3 foot space of light in front of you. And so, anyways, we're all going through this. All of our stomachs are messed up. It takes a real level of vulnerability for a female to tell men who they've never met before in a group setting that I have diarrhea. Will you please wait for me?
Yeah, right. Totally. She's like, but I just got it.
But
I got my headlamp on.
Yeah. But the thing about it is you're so broken down physically that you don't have anything to protect yourself anymore. You can't hold up any of these false pretenses or this facade of who you are and pretending to be. It's and that's all gone. And so you just become who you are on that mountain in that exact moment. And you're sharing, your struggles. Man, guys, I'm struggling. And then they're like, we got you. Never met these people before in your life. But and I'm going to cry thinking about it because it's just it's such a deep connection with people that you've never met. You're why is that? How is it I built a deeper connection with someone on the side of a mountain, in one of the darkest places physically, that then I have friends that I've known for a long period of time. And the reason is because you broke yourself down. You allowed yourself to become fully vulnerable because that was your only option. There's no way you're completing this task unless you're fully vulnerable. And so that's just kind of a isolated incident to share. That's why do I want to do that crazy stuff? Is because that's where reality lives. That's where relationship is. And that's who you find out who you are and how you find out where other people are. And the reality is you don't get that in the burbs where everyone's caring about what they wear and what cars they drive and all this other BS. It's until you're willing to be vulnerable and break it down, you're not making connections with anyone. You may make some false connections, but you're not going to make any real relationships. So that's an incidence of, hey, building a community that only existed for 36 hours, but it was a very deep connection.
And the impact it still has on you, and no doubt them.
Yeah.
And there is that I'd add to it from my perspective is our for whatever reasons, the resistance of giving, which takes me to my 5th critical choice too, the resistance of, well, maybe David doesn't really want to know this about me, or maybe he's got to run and pick his kids up from school, or, maybe he doesn't really care. There's all of the things that create barriers to us connecting on a complete vulnerable level in the way that you just articulated so beautifully. So thank you. And that does take me to my 5th critical choice, which to me is the most important choice. If we do this every day, and you do, everything else happens. And that is to embrace our innate boundless capacity to give love, the verb, the action. What you were just talking about with the mountain. That is the manifestation of giving love too, and choosing to receive it. from others. So you've already given me so many examples, but share a little bit more. How does giving love show up for you in your life?
The way that love shows up in my life is what I do. It's I share the message of health and fitness to a society that desperately needs it. Because most people struggle to love themselves in an appropriate way. It would be if I said, "Hey, you love your kids?" Oh, I love my kids so much. Like, you want them to be obese as they get older, maybe have diabetes. You want to look in the mirror and like not look like the way they look, or like not have confidence in their bodies. You want them to struggle with infertility, or you want them to have like back pain, or you don't want any of that stuff for your kids. No, I was like, I love them. Like, why would I want that? Like, why do you allow that for yourself? You love yourself, like you would treat yourself in a loving way. And the way that I can best give love to people is by sharing that message and sharing that truth, and not letting people go their lives without hearing it, and hearing that they can do something about it, that they do have it within them to make that change. And I'm here to help them. And I'm going to create a path for you guys and accountability to help you do so. So,
and be a little tough sometimes about it, right? Like even just the way that you just articulated that, it's just very factual. You wouldn't wish this upon anyone you loved,
right?
Especially your children. Like, so all of these excuses and reasons, and and just that firmness around your belief is giving.
Yes, and it would be unloving for me to lie to you.
Right.
It would be unloving for me to let you lie to yourself. And so the most loving thing that I can do is tell you the truth and encourage you to follow in it.
David, I needed this interview today. Awesome.
I'm glad to hear that.
I have been so looking forward to spending this time with you. When we connected instantly, I knew I wanted to bring your voice and experience and perspective to my community. And I also wanted to give another platform for your community to be able to hopefully hear a little bit about you that perhaps some people haven't heard before.
Yes.
I believe with my whole heart and everything in me that when we choose to show up and give all the love that we have, that is when we create enduring success. And I'll take it all the way back to what you said at the beginning, because I'm going to think about this in the vitality and the balanced vitality in my life. And what am I doing to give all of the love to me in each of those 6 areas, such that I can create more of that balance too, and show my kids and my husband that as well.
Love it. I love it.
You're amazing. Everyone, thank you for being along this journey with me and tuning in for David Allen, CEO of NBS Fitness, mentor of 2Brain, father, husband, community member. Awesome. Thank you, David.
Thanks for having me, Trish.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Choose and Become interview series. To check out more episodes, go to www.trishkendall.com/podcast, or go to any of your favorite podcast channels, including YouTube, under Trish Kendall Speaks, and you'll find this interview and more. Choose and become.